Of course.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Inshallah, you're all well. I'm joined today by Uncle Hussain Hoz, who is a proud British Iranian and a member of the Workers' Party of Britain. He's someone I respect for his brilliant activism for the Palestinian cause. Assalamu alaikum, brother. I appreciate you joining me today to share your insights on the US, Israel, and Iran war.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure. I've watched you tweet and give information out, and you're on point, which is why I've agreed to be here with you, because I've got a lot of time and respect for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I do appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're not very well, so thank you so much for joining me. And I think we should take a moment to commemorate the tragic bombing of the girls' school in Iran, which resulted in 175 Iranian schoolgirls being killed by the Israelis. It was truly an evil act and just a horrible tragedy that can't even fully be put into words. On top of that, Israel were first to strike Iran, which started the war in the first place. And of course, Iran has defended themselves in response. What do you make of Iran's targeted attacks on US bases in Gulf nations and the false flag Israeli attacks in those same nations with a motive of further flaring up tensions?
So for me, as far as I'm concerned, if you've got someone that's using bases, any unit of war that is a point of interest on the map that is being used and is weaponized against you, and you are the defender, you're not the aggressor. Iran was not the first person to attack anyone. Iran has said, we're at the talks, we're happy to talk, we're happy to sort this out. But it looks like the Americans didn't want to do that. So it's not like the Iranians hadn't told the Qataris, the Emiratis, and the whole of the Gulf that every American base, every American anything in your territories is a target for us, because those are forward operating bases that are being used to attack Iran. And because it was a completely unprovoked attack, and it was an attack that Iran was looking to happen, but they didn't start it, I think it's absolutely fair to take out the military points of interest that would be used on the first day and will be continued to be used. Just because they've got an American flag above the base, it doesn't preclude them from getting damaged and smashed to pieces, which is exactly what's happened to all of their bases. All of their bases are in absolute ruins, and we're only in day 6 of this war, and this could go on for quite a long time, and Iran has been prepared for this war for a very, very long time. So as far as I'm concerned, absolutely justified. And what's his name? Tucker Carlson turned around and said that Saudi intelligence and Qatari intelligence found Israeli Mossad agents being agent provocateurs. And Iran has 100% denied having anything to do with the bombing of the Aramco refinery. So that goes to show that that's something that they wanted to do to destabilize Saudi Arabia, because in the end, people may think that Israel is quite happy for these Arab nations to exist and whatever else, but reality is Greater Israel, as you know, and everyone else knows. The northern part of Saudi Arabia needs to become part of Israel's project. So anything they can do to help bring two powers to fight each other so that there's less people fighting Israel and more people fighting against Iran is a good thing as far as they're concerned. But it's not an equal fight between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's defenses are all, unfortunately for them, unfortunately for us, are all desert. There is no mountains, there is no place to hide, and it wouldn't take a lot for Saudi Arabia to be absolutely ruined. All of their military bases, as well as all of their refineries, which would have a catastrophic biblical effect on planet Earth if that was to happen, which, you know, the Iranians haven't started or done, and they haven't attacked the Iranian refineries. Should they do so, then it all escalates, and then it goes absolutely, it will go through the roof. Oil will just be unbuyable.
I think the first question should be, why are Gulf nations hosting US military bases in the first place? Having diplomatic ties and trade is one thing, but to house another country's military bases is another, especially when said country is well known for oppressing other Arab Muslim nations. Like you said, Tucker Carlson actually went viral recently for exposing how Israeli Mossad agents were arrested in Saudi and the UAE for planning false flag attacks and pinning them on Iran, which is just typical Israel. And the word is that the non-military targets that have been hit in the Gulf countries have Israel's fingerprints all over them. So in an ideal world, this would be the perfect time for all Muslim nations to strike Israel. Then that goes for the Arab countries as well as places like Pakistan and Turkey. But as we know, despite the people in those countries wanting that to happen, the leadership have been corrupted by, their greed and also maybe in fear of the repercussions themselves. With the irony being, if Iran falls, any of them could be next, like you said. So what are your thoughts on the Ayatollah being assassinated, and how has this affected the Iranian resistance in terms of morale and motivation to defend themselves?
So there's two questions, and I want to answer the first question, if I may. Why do the Arab countries host these bases? They don't have a choice. They have been told that Iran is the big enemy. They've been told that Iran wants to export its revolution. Iran wants to bring the Islamic caliphate of Shia Muslim to your Sunni lives. And, since 1979, Iran is the bad guy, and it's always the country that is being demonized in every TV show, in everything you can think of in Hollywood media. Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism. Actually, the biggest sponsor of state terrorism is Israel and America, and not Iran. But that is the narrative that's been sold to the Arab world. And because of that, they live in fear of Iran causing a problem, Iran being a bad neighbor, whereas Iran has been nothing but a good neighbor to their friends, to countries. For instance, when Qatar ended up being in a blockade, Iran came and saved the nation of Qatar from dying, from capitulating. They provide them with every food there is. They gave them everything they needed by boat, and Qatar was able to get itself together and get itself on its feet because Saudi Arabia, Emirates were upset over Al Jazeera's reporting. So they don't have a choice because the Americans said there's an incident which you need to know about. UAE, during 2017, when Qatar was having these problems with Saudi Arabia, a squadron of airplanes lit up, picked up in UAE and started flying towards Qatar. Al Udeid Air Force Base lit up all of those planes, which is the American base, and turned around and said, we perceive you as a threat to our base. You need to go back. Donald Trump had given the order that I don't care if the Qatari regime changes, but the armed forces who have a special relationship with the Qatari armed forces in Qatar lit up the planes and said, we're going to shoot you down if you carry on down this pathway. And so the military side of the conflict against Qatar that took place in 2017 was stopped by the Americans. This brought about a sense of America's not going to allow it to come head to head militarily. It's not going to allow revolutions because really the Al Thani family are close and good friends with the presidents, as is the Mohammed bin Salman, as is Mohammed bin Zayed. All of them have got to understand their position. Qatar's the world's second or largest gas exporter. America wants to protect it. So that's an important aspect of why they have these bases, because they get a sense of protection. But that sense of protection is absolutely shattered right now. It doesn't exist anymore because it's been proven that America cannot defend itself, number one. And second of all, it has decided to defend Israel rather than Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Almost all of the air defense systems that they have in place have been allocated to support Israel and its dome of protection. And all of these Gulf countries who have had absolute ruination for the charisma of people wanting to come to their countries, that's shattered. No one will want to go to Dubai again to invest or anything. So because of that, it's a mistake that they had them. That's question number one. Question number two, Sayyid Ali Khamenei. All of the leaders of Iran, which is Ayatollah Khamenei and Sayyid Ali Khamenei, me as an Iranian who was living in Qatar and lived in England since 1976, I disliked these men. I didn't like them. And the reason I didn't like them was because I was being fed a narrative by the British news, by the British way of life, because we were taught to hate Muslims. We were in English boarding school, we were taught to look at these people as some form of demons. And what I've discovered is, and it's only lately in the last a year or so, 2 years, I would say, maybe a bit longer than that, maybe 3 years, in fact, I've discovered when I go and watch the translations of the things that Imam Khomeini said, Ali Sayyid Khamenei has said, do you know what? They're not bad people. Actually, you could say they're the good guys. You can actually say being a Muslim is better than being a genocidal person. And the fact that Iran has been the only person or the only country that has supported the Palestinians in their struggles in the last 20 odd years, since, Haj Qasem Soleimani and whatever else, has actually trained them and given them all the stuff they need, as well as Hezbollah, as well as Yemen. The way to look at it is this, and it's Matt Kennard who said this, and it's an absolutely perfect picture. The Allies knew that these train lines were being used to take Jews to the Holocaust camps and being murdered, and did nothing about it. Iran knew that if it helped Lebanon, if it helped Gaza, if it helped any of these people, it would be under attack. And yet they chose to do that. And the reason I've gone into this is I want to speak to the character of Ali Sayyid Khamenei. He is the one who is responsible for making sure that the struggle exists for all of these countries. He is the reason why the struggle existed. Without his leadership, politicians of different sides may have come in and said, no, forget them. He is the one that supported the fight against apartheid. Nelson Mandela, when he came to visit Iran, first thing he said, hello, my leader, to Ali Khamenei, because Iran has been the most anti-imperial country because it suffered the most under empire. And Ali Sayyid Khamenei did that. What they have done by killing him is they've got every Sunni and every Shia who's got, I'm not going to say every Sunni because some Sunnis really, truly hate Ali Khamenei, but the majority of people have seen the injustice of what happened to an 86-year-old spiritual Muslim leader by Jews and by Americans and by Israelis. And they're looking at it as, the religion of Jews, even though the Jewish people are not responsible. People are beginning to say the Yahud, but it's not. That's another important point I'm trying to make. This is the perceptions that they were trying to decapitate. We can show you the power, this, that, and the other. We can destroy you. Reality on the ground is there were two sides in Iran, two major sides, the reformists and the conservatives. And the conservatives would go up with Haj Mahmoud, Dr. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad for 8 years. Then we got Khatami and other Rouhanis. And, you get conservatives in this. What they did was, by attacking and killing the leader of the nation, they've ended up unifying the whole of Iran. There is no one in Iran that is willing to negotiate with America anymore. There is no one in Iran that is willing to accept any terms with them anymore. There is no negotiation. And it's every night in Tehran, people are coming out onto the streets supporting their government. They wanted to kill Sayyid Ali Khamenei, and this is the Israeli mindset. I don't know how they think it worked, because it didn't work with Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. If we kill the leader, the people will either be scared or they'll just go, well, we don't want to get killed. They don't understand the story of Imam Hussain. They don't understand the story of martyrdom. They don't understand the psyche of Iranians when you push them. And this is the problem for them. they didn't think it through, or maybe they did think it through and wanted to get revenge on Iran and bomb it because of what happened on the 12th day. Well, I really don't know. But it's the biggest backfire in the universe for the Israelis and for the Americans, because the results are Tel Aviv is getting flattened. They're going to run out of missiles very soon. And when they do, there'll be no defense left. And then every $20,000 missile, of which Iran has hundreds of thousands, you can put one per 100 meters, 200 meters, and it would cover every square inch of a building that there is in the whole of Israel, Palestine, occupied Palestine. So it's up to them. Anyway, it's not up to them. It's done. Mm. We're going to see the consequences in the near future, and we'll see what happens to them.
I think that there will be opinions on both sides where people agree and strongly disagree with the late Ayatollah's past actions whilst in power, like you said. And, however, there's no denying that he did not back down and died on his feet. And this strategic act of bravery has galvanized the Iranians into fighting for their country. Like you said, it's united them all, and it may even inspire them to act as he did whilst defending their homeland and families from Israel. I don't think Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu were expecting this reaction, like you said. They probably expected there to be a loss of morale and being a step closer to a regime change in Iran and maybe even installing their puppet Shah. However, I've heard the Ayatollah's son is taking the reins. Do you think that Trump and Netanyahu have underestimated Iran's capabilities?
I don't think they've underestimated. I think they're completely clueless. What they've done is they've set fire to a barn and then didn't realize there's actually gallons and gallons and gallons of paraffin there. And they've burnt a fire inside of people because, they were saying, oh, he's hiding like a rat. Run, we're going to kill you, this, that, and the other. And his message was very simply to all his guards, his bodyguards, and the people who said, look, we need to put you into protection. He's gone, I'm not going anywhere. And his answer was, and he had two questions. They said, well, let's at least put you in a shelter. He goes, can you put the Iranian people into shelter? 90 million Iranians. And they said, no, we can't. And he's gone, well, can you move the other 90 million people out of the cities into safer places? They've gone, no, we can't. He's gone, well, in that case, I'm going to be in my office. And it wasn't a stroke of intelligence or genius. He slept here in his compound. He went to his office over here. And that's all he ever did. He wasn't going to change anything. His attitude is, if I die as an 86-year-old man, at least I'm dying with shahada. I'm dying as a shaheed. And you know as well as I do what Shia people are like when it comes to dying a shaheed. And it has galvanized the Iranian people. It's not galvanized just the Iranian. It's galvanized Muslims around the world, because people turn around and say he's a rat, he's hiding. Actually, he's a man's man. He's a prince amongst princes when it comes to courage, when it comes to the willingness to put his life, at the sacrifice of his country. And by the act of that sacrifice, he has made sure that Iran and Iranians stand tall and proud, and every vengeance which hits people is in his name. Everything that's been done to Israel, it's in his name. Strategic mistake is not the word, it's the worst thing. And the thing is, everyone is saying it. They may destroy bricks and mortars, but there is no way you can defeat 90 million Iranians, plus the other millions of people around the world who now look upon you as the most evil, despicable administration in the history of time, because you've attacked Iran for no reason. You were actually in negotiations and they'd agreed to the nuclear stuff, and you decided to move the goalposts. Because every time that Netanyahu makes an agreement with someone, this is the goalpost, you accept it, and then he goes, well, I'm going to move the goalpost. I'm going to move the goalpost. And that's what he's done. And that's exactly what the Americans and the Israelis, they had no intention, by the way, of having a negotiation. None. Netanyahu came to America 45 days ago when Nicolas Maduro was, captured and arrested illegally and sent to America. That was the time that they made the arrangement that this is the date, the 28th. this Saturday we're going to do it, and this Sunday it's going to happen. They didn't. Anyway.
No, I do definitely think that the US and Iran, the US and Israel underestimated Iran. I've seen Trump and Netanyahu make some press appearances since the war began, and they do look visibly shaken. And from the videos we've seen on X, Iran are really taking the war to Israel, like you said. Also with Elon Musk censoring Iranian accounts that show the extent of damage being done to Israel by Iranian missiles, by literally deleting them off his platform, it seems that Israelis are in panic mode. How long do you predict that this war will last, and how can Iran emerge victorious?
So there's two important things to know. So there's the War Powers Act, which is the American Senate has to decide who goes to war.
Mm.
The American president can actually put an executive order that I am attacking this place, and this is a special operation, which is actually a full war, for 60 days without any approval from Congress. He can go to Congress and ask for an extension of another 30 days, which they will oblige him and have to give him whether they like it or not. So there is the limitation of 90 days for this operation for America to succeed or fail. Mm-hmm. Okay. After that, he's got to go to Congress. There is the midterm elections that are taking place in November 26. 85% or 80 to 85% of the American public, the voting public, do not want this war at all. Everyone perceives it as a war that's being done on behalf of the state of Israel, just like every other one that's taken place. Everybody that goes back, there are people complaining and shouting and saying, why are we dying for Israel? We don't need to do this. There is nothing in our interest for this. Anyone who votes for the war to continue, in the ballot in November, the America First movement is going to destroy them. Mm-hmm. They're not going to get voted in. No, with all the AIPAC money in the universe, they're still not going to get voted in. So that is the Powers Act, 90 days, okay? Iran has to survive militarily for that period of time, and the Americans have to understand that after 90 days, they've lost already. They've got to stop because there's no way that the Congress is going to pass it. For me, once the defensive batteries of Israel are all found and targeted, because every time that they send missiles over, they are finding the location of these Iron Dome batteries and they are targeting them and destroying them. That is one side of the Iron Dome. Second part of the Iron Dome thing is they will not have enough missiles to sustain the kind of mass swarms that are going to be coming over, the mass missile systems that are going to be coming over. There is also no defense to the hypersonic missiles that Iran has got. The THAAD batteries, which are like the 1 million, or what's it called, missiles each, they number in the hundreds. Mm. And they don't have, like, only 6 of them could be used from one THAAD battery. So they could stop 6 only in one night from one battery. I think there's 4 or 5 of them. They will run out of missiles very quickly once the intercontinental ballistic missiles start coming in, the hypersonics start coming in, because those will carry, 2,000 kilogram warheads, and those 2,000 kilogram warheads will be doing a lot of damage to everywhere, as in, like, they will be put in holes like you've seen in Gaza, like you've seen in Lebanon. Those are the huge JDAM size missiles that leave a hole in the ground 100 foot deep. Iran has to saturate and destroy all of the air defenses that they've got for missiles. And then what they've got to do is just go, here is 20,000 Shahed missiles that are going to be fired at you, and there is nothing you can do about it. You can send an airplane up to try and shoot them down, but if we send enough of a swarm together, there isn't enough bullets in your planes to be able to take these things down. There isn't enough of an air cover to do that. And these Shahed missiles are very small. They don't have a lot of radar signature, and they can go in, and it's been proven they can go in because they're hitting targets. So for me, Iran will win. The only problem I've got in all of this equation is, when will Israel turn around and accept that this is an existential threat to its existence as a nation, and then take it nuclear? At which point, it's a world-changing effect. It's a world-changing event, because if they start using nuclear weapons, it means that the whole world recognizes the fact that Israel does have nuclear weapons. And you know as well as I do, they don't have any nuclear weapons, correct?
Yeah.
They don't have any nuclear weapons. They've said for years, we don't have nuclear weapons. But then it changes everything, because they're not a signatory to any of the nuclear agreements. They have to open themselves for investigations and inspections. And also, America is not allowed to give money to a country that has nuclear weapons that is not part of the, what's it called, IPTA, whatever it's called. If they're not part of that thing, they're not allowed to receive any money. So that, for me, is it. So far as the Americans are concerned, the Americans are no longer going to be able to sustain themselves in the region. One, because the Arab countries don't want them to stay anymore, because they've realized actually having them here, all we've done is made ourselves a target. We've not actually made ourselves any safer. And the Iranians have made a promise that they're going to destroy the American bases, and they have done, and they will do it again. And also the logistics of their Aegis missile ships, which are the ones that can do, which are supposed to be like the super destroyers, cruisers, and whatever else. An order has gone in to not use too many of their missiles, because they're going to need them to defend the strike group. And those vehicles, those ships, need to go back to a port that is friendly to them to be reloaded. They have 60 missiles to 70 missiles each, not more than that. So once they've used those up, it will leave the whole of their strike group completely naked, no defenses other than the Gatling guns, and those can be swarmed and can be overcome with a swarm of drones. So America is going to end up, and I think what they did to the Iranian Navy ship is something that's going to cause them to now be properly in the sights with their Navy, under the sights of the Iranians, and they're going to get targeted by ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, to hit their Navy. We shall see. That's my opinion on all of that.
I mean, inshallah, Israel is defeated, and whatever the outcome, like this war benefits no one, especially not the US. Like you said, it could result in the deaths of tens of thousands of American troops, a heightened refugee crisis with Europe and America having to potentially deal with millions of Iranian asylum seekers, as well as, global energy crisis due to the Gulf states being in the crossfire. And God forbid if Iran is not successful, which you have said that, you do think that you do believe that they will win. But if they
100%.
don't, then other Muslim countries across the region, could be targeted next. And that does bring me nicely onto my next question about, you kind of touched on it earlier, but what's your advice to certain Muslims who are still stuck on, the Sunni Shia sectarian divides, especially in regards to the Israel and Iran conflict?
So what I'll say to you is the majority of Muslims in the world are Muslims. They don't look at themselves as Sunni and Shia. The ones who are saying Sunni this, Shia this, I consider them to be the extremists in both religions. And they're not the large percentage of our Muslim ummah. That is something that people need to understand. And the loudest, most aggressive on both sides are people who I consider to be radicals against each other. And they're the ones that cause the divisions that don't need to exist. At the end of the day, as Muslims, it is incumbent of all of us to make sure that there is no injustice in this world. It's up to us to make sure that those that need support and help get it. And it's important for us to do good things in life. And whether you're a Sunni or a Shia, I think it's pretty obvious what's happened in Gaza is a bad thing. I think what's happened in Iran is a bad thing. What's happened to anyone who's been an enemy of Israel has been a bad thing. And you've got to stand up for people. And that for me is, the message of Islam is not just to, to submit to the will of Allah. It's also to do the right thing, the righteous thing, and to live your life like a good person. And if it's okay for you to watch what happened to Gaza happen, and do nothing, which is what the Emirates have done, and in fact Emirates have done something more. They've actually helped the Israelis with propaganda. They've helped them by giving them political cover. They've given them embassies. They've given them people to come to the UAE. They also opened up a road for them to bring their food and their goods, because the Bab al-Mandab was closed by the Yemenis. And because it was closed by the Yemenis, they could not feed themselves. They could not supply themselves properly. And the Emirates did that. They are traitors. They are traitors to the Ummah, and they are traitors. They are servants of Israel. This family has been completely corrupted, and they've taken the side of Israel over the side of the Islamic Ummah. And also on top of that, they've got religious people who are perverting Islam to say it's okay for Epstein, for instance, files to be what they are, and we should just ignore it because it's, it's just hearsay. This is the mentality of people who are not Muslims. No Muslim can sit there and allow children to be, I'm not going to say it on your channel, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And for that to just be let go and not accept it. And then you've got religious scholars who are supposed to be Muslims, and I say supposedly Muslim, saying it's all lies. Yeah. My thing is, I'm not very religious myself, but still I've got a sense of what's right and what's wrong. And you don't need to be a Muslim to know what's right and wrong. It's good to be able to have a moral compass, to have a spine and a backbone, and stand up for people when you think something bad is happening to them. Don't let your sect in Islam stop you from being that good person. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I've always said you don't have to agree with everything the Iranian government has done or represent or even condone, perceived wrongdoings, but not backing Iran against Israel is playing right into the hand of the Israelis. The US Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, made a viral statement the other day where he called the Iran war a war on Islam. So they see no difference, and Israel don't care who they kill as long as it furthers their colonial ambitions. As a Sunni, I'm willing to unite with Christians against Zionism, so I don't get why some people can't do so with Shias. Both Sunnis and Shias have historically oppressed each other up until very recently, but right now the greater evil is Israel. The Israelis kill both Sunnis and Shias en masse indiscriminately and hate both of us equally. So their worst nightmare is us having a truce between us against them. So this is why they're desperate to keep us divided, and they feel the same way about Christians and Muslims as well. And I know me just making that statement will make a lot of people angry, and I can understand why, but we have to transcend our ingrained views and look at the bigger picture strategically, despite our theological sectarian disagreements. Israel is a bigger threat to both Sunnis and Shias than we are to each other, like you said. It's about the greater Muslim Ummah. If we can defend ourselves to the point they're no longer a threat, then we'll all be safer in the long run. And who knows, it might even result in us overcoming our past personal grievances. But with Sunni nations finding it difficult to unite amongst each other, like you were also mentioning, a truce with Shias seems like a far-fetched concept at the moment sometimes.
I agree with what a lot of you said, and I just want to add that the people that fomented the Shia and Sunni thing in the last 25, 30 years has been the Israelis. Through their TV programs, through what they did in Iraq, because you've got to remember, America is an extension of Israel, not the other way around. And that sectarian strife was put in place and created, and the fuel was added to the fire of it by the Americans. And what they did, they knew what would happen if you destroyed the Ba'ath Party in Iraq. They knew if you get rid of the Ba'ath Party and army and whatever else, you stop paying those people, guess what? They're going to turn on you. And they turned on the Americans, and the Iranians came and helped the Iraqis, and we've got conflict. We really don't need conflict when we've got Israel stoking problems, having agent provocateurs coming to blow up oil refineries. We've got enough problems already with the Israelis. We don't need to fight each other. And to be honest with you, people have to accept the fact that if someone stands up and prays to Allah. That's your brother. That's your sister. Be done with the rest of the stuff. You know, whether you do this, or and Imam Khomeini turned around and goes, "You're sitting here fighting each other over how your hands are being held while you're praying. Meanwhile, they're cutting your hands off.
Yeah.
You're getting your hands cut off. Instead of worrying about how I pray and you pray, just unite, and let's just go forward. We'll work it out. You know, we don't need to be fighting each other as different types of Muslims."
Yeah, and inshallah that will happen, and we will unite, and we will hopefully unite as an ummah, as a Muslim ummah, against, like I said, the greater evil that is Israel. Uncle Hoz, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your valuable insights with the audience. Thank you. I know you're not feeling very well. You know, may Allah make you better. May He bring you back to full health. I will definitely keep you in my du'as, inshallah.
I just want to say, people, don't be upset that I'm lying down. It's because I got a broken back, so unfortunately, I have to be in a laying down position for extended periods of time. And thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I really hope your message gets out there and we end up fighting the right people and not each other.
Inshallah. Okay. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Bye-bye, my darling.